Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Swift Contractors Corner, and I am 9 minutes late because I don't know how to do electricity in my house apparently, and I have a breaker that went out and did some weird, nasty stuff to me, so I had to reroute power to a whole different room. And we're here, and I say we, and I mean yes, we are here. Jeff and I are both here. Hey Jeff.
Hey, man.
So yeah, sorry for the late start, you guys. We're gonna jump into this real quick. Let me throw right into the whole fuel surcharge thing real quick. Let's get that out of the way. I see people are clicking in left and right. That's awesome. It's like they're chomping at the bit, Jeff. They're like clicking in. Bloop, 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 bloop. I love it.
Indeed.
All right, let's do this fuel surcharge thing and see what happens. This button. All right, so this week's national average went up, guys. I did that again. I put the wrong number. Look, this is a positive jump, 0.068, not a negative like it says there. So I'm a failure this week. I thought I had it fixed and I didn't. Anyhow, so we're up to 3.725 on the national average. The West Coast went up 0.034 to 4.451. That brings our fuel surcharge to 0.403, 40 cents, y'all. That gives a change. We went up in fuel surcharge 0.012, but our West Coast fuel surcharge dropped by 1 penny because that gap between them dropped. So if you're running West Coast, it'll be average out about the same as you were doing last week. But there you go. That's that. And we're going to jump back into this because we're late and I'm sorry. And yeah, it'll be fun. And here we are.
Here we are.
It's Jeff and Charlie. We're here talking. Let's see. Chat's already going. Got Paul Phillips sitting there saying hi. Facebook user with the old thumbs up. Hey, Facebook user. Dennis Lewis, like usual, can count on him. I know Ken Kelly's working today. He told me earlier he wasn't going to be here today, but that's cool. So yeah. So this week, you guys, we had an idea. I should say we. I mean Jeff. We wanted to talk about setting up your LLC, when, if, or why, and that sort of thing. And let's jump into that. I see Chris Springer. Thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, Charlie, too. I mean, if we go into the time machine, go back to 2008,
Right.
one of the things that I'm finding really interesting is that fuel surcharge nationwide back then was topping up at around 70 cents a mile,
Yeah.
but the West Coast differential never got above 5 cents.
Right.
So if you guys have been around that long, you're scratching your heads go, gosh, why isn't it up around 70 cents again? Well, the national fuel price is not near as high as it was back then.
Right.
What we're seeing is this divergence on the West Coast from all semblance of reality, in my opinion.
Right.
so
Hey,
that's what's going on with that.
Jeff had a thing that I was supposed to bring up also before we do this LLC thing. It is tax time. And what else was I supposed to say about that, Jeff? I don't remember. Do you
Just
remember what I
get
was
it
supposed to say?
done.
Yeah, get
Just
it
get it
done.
done. We don't give tax advice on the show because we're not accountants, obviously.
I'm afraid
But
of that topic.
he's so afraid of it that he actually ignored my suggestion on that. That's how afraid Charlie is of taxes.
Yes, I'm afraid to get
Because
sued.
the thing is that if we did give advice, Charlie and I do our thing, and we kind of know what we do for our business, but we work with our accountants on that, and we can't give actual tax advice. We're not professionals. So you even like if you listen to like the gurus like Dave Ramsey on the XM or whatever, they always have that disclaimer. Make sure you consult your tax attorney or
Right.
whatever before you do anything.
I'm afraid to even dip into that. Look, and it's not necessarily any one of you guys, but anyone else watching this be like, "Oh, well, Jeff and Charlie said do it this way," and that's and I'm like, "Look, that's why I pay people.
That's right.
I pay
Same
people
re-
to make sure I don't have that problem."
it's the same thing I say about a lot of things. Like I'm one of those people that I really really hate working on cars. I hate wrenching, and there's a
Right.
reason for that because my dad, I just told my son he had to do a brake job on his car the other day, and he messed it up, and I said, well, your grandpa, what he had me do one time is I waited too long to do my brakes, and he made me grind the rotors with a circular grinder, and then because it needed to be smoothed out, right? And then he said, by the way, you can't really do that and be safe. So he took me down to the auto parts store after I did all that work
Right.
and made me buy new rotors. So that's why
Nice.
I hate wrenching on stuff, because my dad was like that.
That's funny.
Taxes, my mom was an accountant. I hate taxes. I just hate them. I hate that stuff. And so I pay people. And it's really, really nice when you get to the point where you could just pay people to do stuff for you and not have to worry about it. It's like, oh, new brakes, they cost $500 for the whole set. Okay, whatever.
Right?
Stroke a check.
Yeah, let's
Taxes,
go.
we'll get more into this a little bit, but having an LLC, you pay more for accounting services. But hey, you stroke the check and say, cool, dude, you guys did all that math for me. That's awesome.
Right. All right. So jumping into this LLC thing, Jeff, we have a magic number that we typically tell people. It's kind of
You do.
a average that we have found throughout the industry to be a fairly common number. What is that number, Jeff?
$75,000.
And what do you mean by
And
75?
I mean net profits for the year, not gross. We all gross over $150,000, and we never pay attention to that number. Why? Because it's not real.
Right.
Out of that $150,000, I've got to pay my maintenance. I've got to pay my fuel. If you have a truck payment, you're paying your truck payment, tags, permits, all that stuff comes out before you get paid. So the number we're looking for is what's going in your bank account at the end of the year.
The
If
net
it's
taxable income.
right, not your adjusted gross either, because we've talked about that when I was talking about
Right.
buying a house. We pay taxes on much, much less money than what we actually make because of all of our deductions. So
Right.
you take the actual net profit you're putting into your account and you say, okay, is that more than $75,000? If it is, then it's almost a no-brainer to incorporate. And I'll tell you why. And again, if you this show is not intended to give advice. We are just a couple of yahoos. And if you have questions about accounting,
Yahoo!
talk to a certified public accountant, please.
Right. Please
But
do that.
the reason to incorporate is not because of the liability protection
But Jeff,
in this
but
day
Jeff,
and
the
age.
LLC is going to protect me from getting sued.
Sure. Other than guess who owns the company?
Is it me?
Yes, it's you.
Does that mean my house can go?
No, actually.
Well, I would argue because it depends on how the suit is filed. They can file the suit against the company, which I wouldn't lose the house, but then they could also file suit against the driver.
In which case I claim bankruptcy. But that's the same protection whether you have an LLC or not. That's the point.
Right.
The LLC is not giving you more protection than what you already have through bankruptcy laws.
Not for most of us, right?
But what it will do is it'll skim a little off that tax bill. And this is how that works. So some of you might have seen the argument that I was having with some drivers on the Swift group the other day about what is fair pay. And I don't want to get into that so much as to what my answer was. I looked up at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The average Class 8 CDL driver in the United States makes between $38,000 and $70,000 a year.
It's a good spread.
That's the average, and it is a good spread. So we at Swift, even if you're royally screwing things up, make more than that bottom part of that range. So what we could do with this is we could say, oh, look, the industry standard is, let's just put it right in the middle there. And between 40 and 70, that's $30,000. So let's just say it's $45,000 or $50,000. You're going to pay yourself $50,000 a year. Then you pay out in either draws or bonuses the rest of your profits. And
Right.
here's why. The part of the tax that you're not going to pay on that extra income is FICA. And I'm having a bit of a senior moment here. They call it something different in business land when you own
Right.
the company, but it's the same thing. It's that Social Security, um, Medicaid, Medicare, those taxes. It's what's commonly called the self-employment tax, which is a totally stupid term because it's not. What it is when you work for Swift as a company driver, they're going to pay half of that for you and you pay the other half. So you pay roughly, I mean, there's decimals involved, but we're just going to make math easy, 7.5% of that bill, and Swift pays the other 7.5%. As business owners, we pay the entire 15%. So that tax is only levied against regular income. So that was the advantage back when I was a commission salesperson for the phone company. I had my salary, which was around 50,000 a year, and then all my commissions that I made from selling stuff, that came in a separate check, which I did not pay Social Security tax on. Same thing for your business. You can break it up so that you're saving money on the taxes on that Social Security thing. So then the question becomes, of course, Charlie, why the $75,000 number?
Right.
So Charlie and I both, we don't promote them, but we do use ATBS for our taxes. So before I formed the LLC, I was paying $23 a week for my accounting services. I now pay $40 a week for my accounting services because I made the leap to being an LLC.
An S Corp LLC.
Yep, an S Corp LLC. Now, the advantage to having somebody like ATBS, and again, I can't stress this enough, if you have some dude that you trust, use them by all means. But I'm familiar with them, so I will talk about them.
Right.
They do all the paperwork for you. They file all the filings for you. I mean, there's filings on an S corp that I'm still not aware of. I'm just getting into this part of the game,
It hurts your head.
and it does. It hurts your head. I've been working on different stuff for weeks, trying to get all my ducks in a row. But they do all that for you, which is why an accountant will charge you more if you have an S corp. There's more work involved. You've got two tax filings you got to do every year. You've got your W-2 because you're going to pay yourself on a W-2 if you're doing it right. So you got to file personal income taxes. Then you've got to file corporate income taxes. So
this is where the savings comes in the tax rate.
Right. So the marginal tax rate for business sits usually around 25%. Sometimes it goes up to 30, depending on what the powers that be decide that year. But if you pull all of your money out of the business and pay it to yourself in bonuses or draws, guess what? Your business didn't have any profit last year.
And
So
that bonus and draw is taxed at a completely different rate because you don't have the Social Security and the Medicare, and Medicaid, and social stuff.
It's just your income tax. So you're
Right.
basically saving 15% on that money. So the journey to this point for me, as you guys know, I paid my truck off last year. And before then, I was making a good $53,000 a year. And my goal for this year is to top six figures without a truck payment. Of course, that depends on if old Betsy blows a gasket or not.
You know, if you work more than a day.
And if you work more than a day. well, I work quite a bit, probably more than most people. Because I'm a money-centered person. You know, like I only have a decent house and all that stuff. So
right.
That's you guys have all heard me say to people that want to become an owner operator. The first question I ask them is, "What, Charlie?
Why?
Why?" And I actually don't care what your why is, but you got to have.
You need a why.
Yeah. For me, it's always been a love of the game and the pursuit of profits. That's my why. That has some side effects to it, like not being home as much, but my wife doesn't have to worry about putting food on the table either. So
Right.
that's my why. Some people's why might be because they want a dog on their truck, which Charlie and I will always tell you that's a terrible reason to become an owner operator, but at least it's a why.
Ready for my why? I can tell you guys right now, and it is an absolutely terrible why. Swift told me I could no longer take my company truck home because I lived 107 miles away. And I'm like, well, I don't like that plan. I want to be able to take my truck home when I want to. So I'm going to be an owner operator. And yeah, it hurt. I learned some hard lessons early on. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, that's the key, though, is that you learned. A lot of people don't learn.
Education is expensive, y'all.
Yep. So the journey to doing this, though, it started when I paid the truck off and I realized, look, if I work the way I worked in the past without a truck payment, I'm going to get close to six figures, which puts me above that $75,000 a year threshold that I've always believed in. So I started the process in late December thinking, yeah, the first of the year, I'm one of those people that I like a clean break. I don't want to have to do two sets of taxes.
Right.
So I made it so that my taxes, I had a natural break with January 1st. Then it became wait, what? I need that. I need that. What do you mean I need that? So ATBS charged me $350 to form the LLC. and they have registered agents in every state. So they just handled all of the getting my EIN number, which is an employer identification number, and that's for your corporate taxes, my licensing and all that stuff for the state of Utah. What they didn't do, which is just I did I mention that I hate taxes, Charlie?
No.
Um, so come to find out that I need a separate employee ID number for the state of Utah. So right now I'm literally running payroll without paying my state taxes, which I'm pretty sure is somehow going to bite me, but I'll get it
You'll
figured
be
out
fine.
eventually.
They'll give you a buffer. It's fine.
Yeah. So when you start this project, it's not just getting your EIN. It's not just putting on a piece of paper, hey, I want to be an S corp. There is a lot of paperwork that goes with it, and it can be frustrating. Um, but uh, Charlie's talking me off the edge almost every day on this, reminding me that once it's done, and you don't have to
Right.
worry about it ever again.
Right. It will be
So
mellow then.
the next thing that people, I think, don't think about, Charlie, is payroll.
Right. Oh, and
And
we've
so
we've seen
far,
that a couple times on the group.
right. And, Charlie and I both use services. I use a subsidiary of paychecks.com, which costs me $35 a month. And what they do for me is I plug in my payroll. I decided just pull it out of my butt. I'm going to pay myself 56 cents a mile. So I could plug in my 56 cents a mile and they calculate, okay, you made this much this week, and they deduct the taxes, they file the taxes, they pay the taxes, everything for that 35 bucks.
Right.
Charlie uses QuickBooks, right, Charlie?
Online payroll, and they're more
So
expensive.
they're a little
They're
more
like 50
expensive,
bucks.
but he likes them, so that's what he uses. And then Matt just does his own, which I think is nuts. But the secret there is what he told me today was because I told him, dude, I'm just not that smart. Yeah, dealing with all those deductions
Right.
and filings. He says, well, my girlfriend is. So it's not him.
So there you go.
It's not Matt. It's his girlfriend that's that smart. So if he ever brags to you guys, just remind him, hey, yeah, dude, we know.
He's still paying a person. Just understand that. I'm just saying.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it's the next level for me.
Right.
Um, it is daunting at first though to get all
The
that paperwork in.
the advice I failed to give Jeff, and I'm just now thinking about this, and you're welcome, Jeff, for that. Um, is when I did my LLC, I actually started the process in November with the plan of it going active January 1st, right? So that come mid-December, I had figured out, with the service that I use, and I can't remember the name of it. Biz Filings is who I used for everything. And mid-December, realized that, I needed a couple more things like Jeff was running into now. Oh, you need a state tax number that ATBS didn't tell him about. And I ran into a couple things like that. But it was mid-December and still hadn't activated the LLC because we still had, another 15, 20 days for that to happen. So then I got that done and still had a couple weeks waiting for everything to be ready to go for January 1st. So I should have told Jeff to start the process a little sooner, but I'm a terrible friend and that's how I am.
Well, I was also trying to close a house at the time, so I probably wouldn't have listened anyway.
Right. There was, God, you had a lot going on at the end of this year. It was great. I mean, you paid off the truck this end of the summer, moving out of Oregon, selling a house, buying a new house. I mean, just, oh God, man, so many things at one time.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm not seeing any questions about forming an LLC itself. So,
well, if you guys have any specific questions about it, but by all means, throw them up or reach out to us after the show or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and if you think you're to that point, send Charlie or I a PM through Facebook Messenger or something, and we can go over the numbers with you.
Absolutely.
And figure out if it's time or not. The thing about business is, I'll use the example of IdleAir. Those of you that remember IdleAir, it was a service that I used quite a bit, especially when fuel was so high. They would charge you like $1 an hour for this HVAC thing that you stuck in your window, and it was great. I loved it, but they went out of business, even though every time I went to a truck shop that had them, man, you had to almost box someone for one of those spots. They were always full, but they expanded too quickly,
Right.
you know. And this multi-billion-dollar company goes out of business because they just took on too much than they were ready for. That's a mistake, and we can learn from that.
Right.
We don't want to take this leap before it's time, because you'll run into paying more in accounting fees than you were saving in the taxes, and you don't want to do that. So that's we keep that number solid, and it's not just us that use that number. The ATBS accountants use that number. If you guys listen to the XM radio at all, Kevin Rutherford, he's been using that number for 15 years, telling people, look, unless you're making that amount of money, it's really not worth the hassle and the expense
Right.
to
Because
form
of
an
the cost
LLC.
of tax prep, the filing fees, and all the other work that you have to do along with it.
Exactly. So it's not just us. There's other gurus out there that are on board with that same number.
So, how do you even start the LLC process, Jeff?
Actually, I started looking at like biz filings and LegalZoom and looking at the forms and all that stuff. And I did some research into what it really meant to become an LLC. The one thing that a lot of guys don't think about is, so you have this limited liability company now. How are you going to tax yourself?
Right.
Because you have a choice. You
Which goes
can
into this question: what's the difference between being incorporated and being an S corp?
exactly.
So, an LLC, just a standard LLC, you could still be a sole proprietor. And
Hmm.
what Jeff and I are doing or have done, and Matt Wright as well, have claimed a tax designator as an S corp, so that the company is taxed as an S corporation. I can't explain to you exactly what an S corp is, just that it's kind of the low end of a corporation. The reporting rules and things like that are different, as far as having a board and directors and meetings and all those other corporate things, like the giant Swift conglomerate, which is a C corp, I believe it is.
Hmm.
um, and like I said, you could have, most people that have LLCs, well, a lot that I've seen have an LLC in trucking, and they're simply an LLC, but they're still taxed as a sole proprietor. So it really doesn't do anything. I mean, there's really no benefit to it at all, except they're paying extra money for
Right.
an LLC.
Yeah, because you don't get that tax benefit unless you're doing payroll.
Right. If you're not a W-2 employee of your company, and to do that, you need to be an S corp.
Yep. And then the C corp, from my research, basically, if you have shareholders and a board, you need to be a C corp. And
Right.
the filings on that one are kind of insane.
Yeah, it
Like,
really
you
is.
actually have to file with the government every time your board has a meeting and submit the minutes and all sorts of weird stuff
Yeah.
that who's got time for that when you're running one truck?
The record keeping documentation, it's
Hmm.
ridiculous. And I mean, look, if you're going to be a Fortune 500 company, or 1,000 employees, by all means, that's the route to go because of the benefits to that. But to offset that cost, you have to have that revenues level, and that's not us guys.
Right. The other thing I'll just put out there, as far as the liability goes, since we are running under the umbrella of a major corporation, we're using Swift's authority to run. If something were to happen, who do you, the 9 times out of 10, they're going after Swift, not us.
The deepest pockets is who the lawyers go after.
They might slap your hand a little bit with a, hey, we're going to include you in this, but they're going after Swift.
Right.
Of course, if that happens, you're probably looking for another job too. So
Right. Yeah. There's a good chance your contract's been terminated by that time, and yeah, you're already looking at someone else. So
yeah,
hopefully
so
it's salvageable. But if you guys have any other questions, throw them up by all means. If you don't want to ask them here, ask them in the group. Send us a private message, and we'll get to those. If you have questions about anything else pertaining to what we normally talk about, by all means, throw those up too. Don't be shy. We're here for you guys. That's what we do every week.
mhm. So there's two questions up there that we glossed over but didn't fully answer. Facebook user, you know, put that one up first. How do you even start the LLC process?
Oh, my bad. That one.
So My advice on that is if you have a tax professional in your pocket, whether it be our guys or your brother-in-law or whoever it is, have them run the numbers on your business and give you an honest answer on if it's worth it or not. That's the
Right.
first thing you need to do is determine, is it worth it to go through this process?
Which you
Is it
should be able to do
worth
fairly soon, being that it's tax season.
right? Right. Yes, look at last couple of years of net profits that you brought in, and it's pretty easy. Then the next one was what's the difference between incorporated and being an S corp? Okay, so to be an S corp, you have to be incorporated. It's not one or the other. When you form your LLC, you can choose from a laundry list of structures. The
Right.
most common are sole proprietorship, S corp, and C corp. So basically, as a sole proprietor, nothing really changes for you other than you're paying more money for your taxes. As an S corp, you've got the tax benefits that we outlined on that. How long does it take to establish S corp LLC? And do we have to put the name on the truck? I'll
You
put
do
that one up
not have
there.
to put the name on the truck. I can answer that one really quick and easy.
I am. I'm going to because it's a pride thing. But
Right.
so if you do that though, if you put your name on the side of the truck, you have to change your sticker for Swift. It has to read operated by instead of lease to. So just keep that in mind. Don't just go slapping your name on the side of the truck. And that goes whether you're incorporated or not, by the way. If you put a name on your door, you've got to change that lease sticker to read operated by. And it took me 3 weeks from start to finish to actually form the LLC. And that's a state of Utah thing. It might be longer or shorter depending on which state you're in. It's just from filing to me getting my letter saying congratulations, here's your EIN and all that stuff from the state of Utah was 3 weeks. So, and I can tell you that that was just the beginning. That was the easy part. so,
Right.
so you also have to give that paperwork to Swift because they need to change their relationship with you. And you just send. What you do is you'll get several letters from the IRS and from the state that you incorporated in, and you just send those to rapid response and they change your designation in the system that, oh, we're doing business with this corporation now, not just Jeff.
Right.
And I'm not sure that that actually changes anything, does it, Charlie?
It
From your
really doesn't.
experience?
They don't really honestly care.
Yeah, it just has to be done for the legal stuff.
Right.
um the other thing too is once you go LLC, so I resisted having a business account for 15 years because it's
Right.
just another account to have to pay attention to, right? And I
Right.
wasn't doing payroll anyway, so who cares? I just had everything going into my personal checking account, um, and calling it good. But
Right.
if you're going to run payroll, yeah, you really need to go out and get yourself a business checking account. I did mine with Zions Bank because it's here in Utah, and I've been banking with them for years anyway. Because back when I set up my accounts when I first started driving, they were one of the only ones that I could set up an account completely online and not have to talk to anybody, which was nice.
Right.
So I'm just going to continue doing business with them because I have a relationship with them.
Something to keep in mind when you do set up a business account, a business banking account versus your personal account that you've been paying yourself into and out of, is you cannot commingle those. You need to keep very good records
Hmm.
of what goes in and what goes out. If you pull a draw, which is not your normal payroll, but you're pulling out profits from the company that is taxed at the different rate we talked about earlier, then that needs to be notated. Yes, you could direct deposit it straight into your account, and that's okay in your personal account, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, I would say most accountants would probably tell you to actually write yourself a check from your business or do some sort of direct deposit that way instead of if like my business account and my personal account are physically linked through my credit union,
Hmm.
but I do not commingle them as far as spending from here and there and back and forth. I do transfer money directly from one account to the other when I do a draw, and those are clearly marked as draws and or bonuses, however it is you want to word that. So that there is that distinction. The reason being is if it what's created by having the two separate accounts is that money is kept separate. Let's say you had a tax issue. Your corporate account is the account that the IRS would go after. If they find that you have pierced the veil, these are their words, pierced the veil by commingling those accounts, not only can they seize your business account, they could also seize your personal account.
Hmm.
And so keeping those things separate is very important for those reasons. I hopefully you're not screwing up on taxes or any of that you have to worry about that stuff, but that also falls into litigation, lawsuits and things like that. If they can find a link to the other account, they're going to go after that cash on hand as well.
Right. And yeah, I was telling Charlie because the business account is so new, I'm having to fund it from personal funds. And we
Right.
talked about how to do that legitimately. So what I have one of my personal accounts, the one that I actually use, because if you guys haven't done this, by the way, and you're married, you need to have two accounts anyway, by the way.
Right.
Just putting that out there. My wife is a signature on all my accounts. However, we keep our money separate because if I'm spending money out on the road, we just found that we stepped over each other too much. So we
Right.
separated the road money from the house money. So I have my road money account linked to my business account. So what I could do right now is I could say, "Oh crap, I need to fund my business."
Why would
Because
you need to do that, Jeff?
well, because I haven't worked in 32 days.
Oh, what about your first payroll? How'd that go?
I spent more on payroll than I brought in that week because I only drove 400 miles.
I'm sorry, I had to get there. It was fun.
That is something that you need to look at, though. You got to do your payroll, and if you worked, you got to pay yourself, right? It's a different thing. You could get yourself in trouble, I think, if you don't pay yourself for hours worked,
Yep.
or miles driven. Because one of the things I got from the state of Utah was this nice little letter about wage and hour laws, and to make
Yep.
sure that I'm paying my people, even though it's just
Yep.
me.
Because
So
of the unemployment slash reemployment funds and things like that, depending on what state you're in, it's has a different name. But the unemployment stuff is based off of the hours you work and what you're paying yourself. And if you don't pay that stuff, they get mad.
yeah, they do. Even though
And
it would
and they'll
be,
raise your tax rate.
yeah, that was one of the funny questions that I asked Charlie when I started this. I figured out I had to pay unemployment taxes. I've never had to before. Which, if you guys don't know, unemployment is actually an insurance program that you buy through the state and the federal government on
Right.
behalf of your employees. So I was wondering, so could I just lay myself off?
That's actually a possibility. It's a thing.
But I'm also thinking, couldn't I get in trouble for that? It just feels weird, right, Charlie?
Right.
You know,
Yeah. And I don't know the exact legal answer, but I'm going to say that it probably would have floated over the last 2 years. I don't know if it would have floated before
well, like
then.
like during COVID or something, you could lay yourself
Right,
off under that program. Or if you lost your contract at Swift and you had your LLC payroll and all that stuff, I guess if you lost your contract, that's some protection that sole proprietor doesn't have.
right.
So there is that, I guess. I just thought of that off the top of my head.
That actually I like that. That's a good thought.
So, you know, that is one of the things, when I was for the last 14, 15 years, I have thought about that from time to time. Man, if I lost my contract, I'd be screwed.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
completely SOL.
because I have no unemployment insurance.
That's yeah, a sole prop, in case you guys didn't know, a sole proprietor does not pay into the unemployment tax or
Right.
reemployment tax or whatever. You know what I'm saying. And because of that, as because like Rosie and I are W-2 employees of our company, and I had drivers before they were W-2 employees, and when I cut them loose, they literally could have filed unemployment. Turns out that one of them took over a truck and the other one went to work for him, so there was no gap. But if our contract was terminated tomorrow, like Jeff said, we could technically file for unemployment. I've never filed for unemployment in my life, so I there I, I don't understand how it even works. But I mean, hell, I'm not going to say no at that point, especially if it's become a hardship.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess there's even when you start thinking about it and going down the list of benefits, there are a lot of benefits to an LLC, but only if it makes financial sense for your business. It's like we've said about a lot of things. Guys will ask us uh, personally, hey, how many miles can I get running out of Target,
Right.
down where Charlie's right,
Lake City,
Charlie's right.
Florida. I don't want likes drivers. Sorry.
And my response to that is, I really don't know, even if I know, because to me it doesn't matter. What matters is, does it make sense for your business to
Right.
go do that? And if it does, go give it a shot. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. A lot of the stuff when you're running your own business are like that. The other thing, and I told Charlie that we all look at our per mile rate to the truck, this, that, the other thing. And remember, Charlie, I told you, now that I have my LLC, I look at it completely differently.
Yep.
I'm not even looking at my rate per mile. What I'm looking, I pay attention to my 56 cents a mile that I'm paying myself,
Right.
but I'm looking at it more in lines of, hey, this is a contract, and this is what my contract is paying me, gross receipts. Then I
Right.
got to take all this stuff out. It's just, it's a totally different mindset.
And it
Uh,
should change your mindset. If it doesn't, then talk to us because we'll help you change your mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And you start looking at Swift. I mean, we've been preaching this the whole time we've been doing this. Swift is our customer, but that really solidifies when you make the leap to an LLC, to me anyway. So and your mindset has everything to do with your success out here. So anything you can do to improve that mindset and make it a little closer to reality. I mean, we all fantasize about being rich truck drivers, but
Right.
let's talk reality. Anything that can bring it back to that reality is good.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I think we covered most of that, Jeff. I will say that Jeff and I had a meeting this morning with Brett Stewart. I'm not sure how much we can talk about. I'll say that we got a peek at load board stuff and had a conversation about it, and it looks like, I mean, he's been saying all a long time that, hey, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. We got the feeling that some things will be changing very quickly here in the next 30 days. That's the feeling I got. I don't know how you feel about it, Jeff.
Well, you actually said that they're deploying the new product in 3 weeks. So,
So, and then they'll need 30 days of testing,
mhm.
and that's what the folks who are on there, and I believe they're going to try and add some more. And what we saw looked okay, nothing fancy, nothing crazy. We did ask
Well,
for a confetti explosion on part of it. Look, that sounds funny. I'm just saying, there could happen.
the main takeaway I got was this, and don't think we're reaching by mentioning it, is that Swift, they've been working on this for over a year at this point. It was
Absolutely.
last January that they started this
Right.
project, and they were using in-house IT people to do it, and you
It was a
know,
disaster.
they just don't have the people, man. Yeah, so that things were delayed, delayed, delayed. Well, they outsourced it. And what I got from Brett, that he's really happy and really confident with this IT group that they've hired from the outside. So what we'll see is um, updates faster if we find
Right.
something wrong with it. They're getting the automation done, which those of you that have used the load board already know that what you have to do right now is you book a load, then you call one of the owner operator planners, and they have to move it from Swift Logistics over to our system, and it's a big to do.
Yeah, there's a whole thing of data entry and moving from here to there and then committing and recommitting and then if something falls through in the middle, it all goes to crap and that just sucks. But Paul Phillips said, how do we get in on that testing, Jeff?
I would say talk to your OOC,
Yep, that's
and
a good path.
if they don't know about it, educate them about it. And you know,
You could ask them to reach out to Brett Stewart on your behalf, or you could reach out to the Rapid Response Owner Operator Division folks, Ian DeGray, Brett Stewart, Becky, Rebecca. I'm not sure. I can't remember which name she goes by. It's Becky or Rebecca. It's one of those two. She's the kind of the leader over Rapid Response.
mhm.
Any of those people should be able to get you in on that list and yeah, send an email.
Yeah, we do have a favor to ask you guys though, and guys that are already I should say, people that are already in the test. Um, we did set up a Facebook group for the testers, and we would really, really appreciate if you guys would actually use that. and talk about your experiences on the load board.
Yes.
Um, because that's how we're getting things done is through that Facebook page. If you do agree, if you do get on the list and you get put into the test, let Charlie and I know, and we'll make sure that you get over to that Facebook group, because that's the thing is we're being given an opportunity to shape this thing,
Right.
and that group right now is being really underutilized.
But
Um,
and if we utilize it, we can really get something built that we want, are proud of, and need.
yes, so I know that the goal is to come up with a product to where the owner operator division can grow, not just
Right.
from company drivers becoming owner operators, but they want to pull people from other companies.
Right.
So and leadership is wondering how they do that. And we keep on telling them how to do that, but the more people that tell them, the more likely they'll listen.
Right.
And that group is perfect for that. Brett's not a Facebook person, I don't think. Um, but if we tell him, hey Brett, check out that Facebook group, he'll go in and look at it.
Right. But yeah, if you are currently on the test team, you should know that you are. And if you are and you're not in a group on Facebook that is specifically there for the load board testing, send a message to Brett, not Brett, to Jeff or myself, and we'll see about getting you put in that so that when we do start this new testing on the next few weeks, that we can get everybody on the same page so that we have a central repository, a place where we can share experiences and what's going on and what we need and what we want to see. So it's really important, you guys.
Yeah, and just like with voice your choice, not just oh this part sucks, but let them know what parts are good too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because what in my experience with software developers is that they'll fix the stuff that you say isn't right as the end user, but then they'll be like, well, apparently nobody likes this feature, so they take it out
Right. Because nobody
because
said anything good about it.
every line of code is a potential problem. So they'll take stuff out if nobody's commenting that they like it too.
And we have been able to get a
So
lot of things fixed and changed and added because of that Facebook group, by the way.
yes,
It was an active way for us to communicate with the internal IT developers. And if they aren't, I'm sure that I can get the software development team that's working on it now, the outside source, to be a part of that group as well.
yes. So so that's the load board news that we have for you today.
So, Paul, you say you run team and you get too much downtime from the load board. I'm guessing you're talking about. So here's the thing: if you're on a load board load, let's say you run from Georgia to Phoenix, and you get to Phoenix and you've got 3 days waiting on your live unload. We have talked to them and got it approved that you could actually drop and T-call that load in Phoenix, let's say, and go run something like a Costco up to Las Vegas. You just need to understand that you still have to get back to that load, that load board load, to make that delivery on time. So if you can get a quick out and back run, there's no problem with you double dipping that way. You see what I'm saying? So I hope that will encourage you to use the load board and not kind of turn you off it, because I know that there's a lot of, well, the majority of it is solo type freight, and that's because the majority of owner operators are actually solos.
Yeah, based on his previous comment, though, I don't think he's in on the test. So let me answer it this way. Um, one of the things we advocate at Swift Contractors Corner is building of relationships.
Right.
So you got to ask yourself, what's your relationship with your OOC? What's your relationship with your terminal leadership? Work those relationships as well as you can. Because my story of actual success is I started as a company driver back in '06, and I ended up on this weird turn from Vegas to LA and back. It's like 200 some odd miles a day is what I was getting.
Right.
You know, and Charlie will appreciate this because we have the same driver leader. I called Dana up and I said, look, if this is all Swift has, I've got to find something else to do.
No doubt.
I can't live on this. And you know what? I was planning on a load back from Vegas to LA, and she said, "Well, hold on a second. Let me look at this." And within 5 minutes, I was taken off of that load, and I had a load to Georgia from from Vegas. which if you guys know the Vegas market, that's kind of incredible.
Right. Yeah, no
But
doubt.
I had this huge load, and I've been working ever since. And it's just that one phone call years ago that I made and said, "Hey, you know, if this is all you got, this is not a living."
Right.
And on the company side, the reason that works is because back then, especially, I think Troutdale was hiring like 20 people a week
Yeah.
back
Oh,
then.
easily.
And of those 20 people in my class for orientation, I was the only one left driving truck in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so these people, they get these new people and they're like, oh, he's just going to be another one of those lazy guys
Right. They
until
don't
you
even want to
prove them
learn
wrong.
your name.
Yeah, until you prove them wrong. And that's the key. You got to prove them wrong. You gotta do your time, be on time, no accidents, no violations, all that stuff. You
Paul,
know,
you say you need help with that. I would recommend going in and spending time with your OOC, your driver leader, whatever it is you want to call them. L- Physically go in and talk to them from time to time. Make it a point to go see them, and be able to sit down and have a meeting with them. Reach out to the owner operator planners via phone so that you learn them. Omar Coretta, and what's the new guy's name?
I can't remember. He
I
just
can't
started
remember.
like a week ago.
Is it Jesse? James? I don't wait,
I don't
that
know.
was funny.
We'll figure it
I don't know,
out.
something like that. We'll get that info out. But we do have a new West Coast planner, so that's cool for the owner op side. You need to start taking that upon yourself as a business owner to start trying to build those relationships. If you need numbers for certain people or departments, we can help you with that. Remember, everybody that works at Swift has an email address, and it is their first name underscore last name at swifttrans.com. So
Assuming you
that
know
is
how to
something,
spell it.
right? Hopefully you do. Some are difficult
But
to grasp.
to what Charlie was saying, every time I go through Troutdale, which isn't much anymore because of the stupid tax that they
Right.
have on trucks there. But whenever I go through Troutdale, I go up and I talk to Dana, my driver leader. Every time, even if it's just to say hi, you know,
Right.
send them pictures of your kids, you
Yeah.
know,
Make
that
it
way they
personal.
know, make it personal, man. You know, if you don't have kids and you have a dog, send pictures of your dog. I don't care. Just make
Absolutely.
sure that they know that you're a person and not a number
You got to pay for those
inside a
biscuits,
truck.
yo.
Yep. So that's how you do it. And I'm coming from a sales background, so it's probably a little easier for me than some people to schmooze the customer
Right.
because I kind of grew up doing it. But yeah, that's what you got to do, man. You got to get in there and face to face. You got to, I send messages to her periodically, just say, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, stuff like that. It does make a difference.
Right. But yeah, I mean, you got to get out there, work those relationships, build those relationships. Don't expect them to know who you are, especially if you're brand new or something like that. You got to get out there and you got to make a name for yourself. You, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, like they say. I like to not be the bad squeaky wheel, but the one that says, "Hey, look what I can do. Look what I can do." Oh my God, it just popped in my head. I'm sorry, but and show the value that you're bringing to their board, to the company, to the industry as a whole.
Hmm.
And they will take note. They will see that, and things will change. And it's kind of a cool thing when you can actually call them up and say, "Hey, I have this problem." But not every time you call is, "Oh, I have a problem." It's like, "Hey, I just want to check in, let you know, hey, we're doing good, things are awesome, and how are you doing today?"
Yep.
You know,
So wrapping it up a little bit, if you guys want more on the LLC thing, just reach out to Charlie or I. We've
absolutely.
both been through the process. The main thing we're going to want to go over with you is your actual numbers. So we're thinking about doing a video just on how to read that, how to do that,
Right.
how to read a profit and loss statement, and figure all that out. You don't necessarily have to wait for tax season. If you're doing your numbers every month, you'll know what you're making.
Right.
And it gets rid of the fantasy because for the longest time, Charlie, I don't know about you, but my wife was having to call me out on this. I'm thinking I'm making big bucks, and she's like, not really.
Right.
And then
Right.
I go, well, let me check my profit and loss statement. I'm like, ah, crap.
And Paul, that is the perfect statement right there. I'm making money here, but I'm looking to make more. And
Yep.
that's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to do, is help everybody make more. Not and this is a weird view, but we're trying to help Swift make more money. We're
Hmm.
trying to help owner operators make more money. We're trying to help company guys make more money. We want everyone involved in the Swift umbrella to make more money because we all benefit from that.
Yep.
So that's actually a great note to wrap on, guys. And once again, we want to thank you guys for being here. It truly does mean a great deal to us. I know it does for me, and I'm sure Jeff, actually cares a little bit. He's like, oh great, they're here again. No, I'm just playing. He likes it too, and come back every week if you have questions, and it doesn't have to be about the topic we're on that week. Throw them up, we'll answer them. We don't care. I'm not guessing your weight or anything, and because that's bad. I lose that game every time. I get in trouble, and I'm trying not to offend people too often. But you guys take care of each other. We hope to see you out on the road. If you come down to the southeast, pop into the Target account in Lake City. Come run a load or two. Say, hey, I'm there most. Well, okay, right now I'm there 4 days a week. Yeah. Jeff's OTR. He's out on the road. He does that real trucking stuff. Drives up there in Canada and all that mess. And oh my God, my phone just went nuts. I apologize for that, y'all. I forgot to silence it. But yeah. So we will see you guys soon. We'll see you next week. Jeff, any final parting thoughts?
Nope. I got nothing.
Look at that. Jeff's got nothing. We talked him out, guys. You
Ugh.
don't understand. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah,
Okay,
look who's
not as
talking.
yeah, I know, right? The ramble machine over here. You guys take care of each other. We love that you're here every week, and we can't wait to see you next week. And don't forget, we're gonna start having Brett Stewart on the first Tuesday of every month. He's trying to wheeze out and say it'll either be Brett or Ian, but whatever. We're gonna get leadership in here, guys. You guys take care, be safe, and we'll see you next week here on Swift Contractors Corner.